What's up, everybody? What does it mean to be an elite teammate? That's a super important question. We discuss it today on the Sportlight podcast.
Welcome to the Sportlight podcast for parents, coaches, and athletes. The Sportlight refers to the time in an athlete's life when they have increased ability to affect the culture around them and the increased opportunity to learn life's lessons through sports. This podcast aims to help parents and coaches capitalize on their athletes' precious time in the Sportlight. The Sportlight podcast is brought to you by Especially for Athletes program.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Sportlight podcast. Today, we're going to take on a subject, and we're going to take some bits and pieces from some other interviews that we've done and splice them together to talk about a critical subject when it comes to helping children get the most out of sports. And here's the subject. How can I teach my child to be an elite teammate? Being an elite teammate, as you know, is something that translates way beyond high school or even youth sports. Being an elite teammate is so important as you move on in a family, as you move on with occupations and everything else. And so we just wanted to take comments from a few of the people that we've had on and talk about what it means to be an elite teammate. So to start off, here's what Justin Sua said about the Tampa Bay Rays. This is where this phrase, an elite teammate, comes from. It's kind of cool. They have two rules. Here's what he says they are.
With the Tampa Bay Rays, we have two rules. Try your absolute best and be an elite teammate. That's it. Those are our rules. Two rules, nothing else. And those two rules pretty much cover everything else.
So what does it mean to be an elite teammate? What does that mean? If we're going to be an elite teammate in a family, or an elite teammate with our job, or an elite teammate on a team, what does that look like? I just wonder what it looks like. And so a few of our guests have mentioned things that I think really give a clear picture for what it looks like to be an elite teammate. So we had Eric Weddle on, all-pro safety. And in an interview with Rich Eisen, right after he retired, he made this statement. Listen to what he said about what he wanted to be remembered for.
Eric Weddle here on the Rich Eisen Show. What are you most proud of? What are you most proud of those 13 seasons?
You know, I was accountable. I was durable. I gave it my all. I mean, there wasn't a sidestep or didn't do everything needed to be at my best. And I thought I gave back as much as the game gave me. I think I gave back more to my teammates and to the team and to the organization. And you know, I think at the end of the day, not many people are going to remember how many picks or touchdowns I had, but they're going to remember if I was a good teammate, if I was a good guy, if I was a guy that could be counted on if they were in need to at 1 a.m. to go pick them up if they were in trouble. Like, those are the things that matter most to me. And seeing the responses from old teammates and people that I've competed against or coached under, that's what I'm most proud about is the man and the friend I was to all my teammates and coaches.
So we asked Eric about that. We asked him about it, and he elaborated a little bit more on how he wanted his teammates to feel about him. And here's what he said about that in our podcast. Give this a listen and think about, what does it mean to be an elite teammate?
I just felt that I owed it to my teammates more so than anybody else to be accountable to them and make sure that I was able to be counted on. And accountability to yourself and to the ones that you're with is one of the greatest attributes I feel in a man or a woman. Are you accountable? Can I count on you? Are you going to line up? Are you going to be here when I need you? Are you someone that if I'm in trouble that you're going to be there for me? And I always tried to not just strive for that, but to let my teammates know that you can count on me, that I am here for you. I won't judge you. I could care less of the decisions that you may or may not make, but I will support you and I will love you. And that is a trust that is hard to find in the league. And for a lot of guys that grow up in situations maybe not of the norm, to have a teammate be there for them is very not usual. The relationships of the NFL, of college, I've really gravitated towards the relationship aspect of the game of football. And the relationships that I have bonded with and mean so much to me is because I took an onus of creating those relationships and making those relationships meaningful. And was it anything that I could get out of it? I think the bottom line is just, I was just trying to be a good teammate, be a good friend, be a good person to these guys. And then by doing so, it opens up this whole world that you never would have got if you never opened yourself up to being a good teammate and trying to build a relationship with those guys that you're going to be on the field with. And now I'm best friends, family with a number of guys that I was teammates with, only because I wanted to know who they were and what their background was and what made them tick and how could I connect with them and make them a better football player and better teammate, better person.
So part of being an elite teammate is your teammates knowing that you will be there for them, that they can count on you, not only on the field of play, but also in life. And so something to ask ourselves is, am I an elite teammate? Are the things that I am doing letting my teammates know that they can count on me? And we've just been wondering, what does that look like? What does it look like to have your teammates count on you? And I think that it takes a little bit of effort. It might even be telling your teammates, hey, if you ever need anything, you can let me know, right? It might mean seeing a teammate who's going off on a path that wouldn't be good for them, and being enough of a friend, enough of a teammate to take them aside and say, hey, I'm worried about you. Or as Eric said in that interview, it might be that they just know you're not going to judge them. You're just going to help them. You're just going to help them with whatever it is that they might be struggling with. But when it comes down to it, what Eric is saying, part of being an elite teammate is being there for your teammates. If you think about high school, here's a few questions that a high school athlete might ask themselves. When we get together as a team, who's not here? A lot of kids, they're going through these things. They're going through these insecurities and these struggles within. They are so afraid of putting themselves out there and being rejected. Part of keeping your eyes up and doing the work and being an elite teammate might be just noticing who's not there. When we get together after a football game on a Friday night, who's not there? When we're standing together in the stands at a football game on a Friday night, who's not there? And why are they not there? Now, it might be that they just have something else that they prefer to do. But if that's not it, if they're feeling left out, a simple text, hey, where are you? We miss you in the stands. Something like that could make a huge difference in their life. So just ask yourself, am I there for my teammates? Do any of my teammates feel like they're on the team, but they're not part of the team? Do they feel camaraderie? Is it only the stars of the team that feel like they're part of the team? Or am I also reaching out to those role players? These are questions that are just to be an elite teammate. So here you have an all-pro safety who is like that with his teammates, with a bunch of millionaires. But he wanted them to know, I'm there for you. If no one else in the world is there for you, I am. If any of you listen to this, have team captains, you might want to listen to that portion from Eric Weddle and ask him the question, are you being elite teammates That was just such a powerful lesson from an all-pro safety. If you're a parent listening to this, then you might ask your kids about specific teammates. You know who's at your home. You know who's on your kids' Instagram. Who's not there? We might ask them questions because most of our youth, they don't exclude people or leave people out or make people feel unincluded on purpose. Maybe sometimes they do, but most of the athletes that we talk to, that's not the case. So who's not there? Who's going through a difficulty? How can you help? That's part of being an elite teammate. And these are just questions we might ask the leaders of our team or our own children that will help them, as Eric did throughout his time as an NFL safety. Do my teammates know that they can count on me? Hey, you need someone to hang out on Friday? A high schooler might ask themselves. Do my teammates know they could always give me a call? You need help finding a girl to go to homecoming with or a guy to go to homecoming with? Do they know they could come to me with that? When they're worried about getting taken out of a lineup or have been taken out of a lineup, or they've been taken out of a dance and a drill team or a performance in cheer, do they know that they could talk to me? That's what an elite teammate does. They create that feeling, you can come to me. And so I'm so grateful that Eric taught that, because I hope my kids are elite teammates. Now, one of our other guests, she touched on something that a teammate did for her. All-American volleyball player Mckenna Miller talked about another aspect of being an elite teammate, a leader on a team. Let's listen to that.
I think there's a difference between being a great teammate and then being just a good teammate. And it was one of the hard lessons I kind of talked about that you learn and you don't love it at the time, but when you look back, it's a really good lesson. So I had one of my teammates, her name is Ronnie Jones-Perry. She's unbelievable. First team All-American, like broke so many records at BYU. Crazy work, like just ultimate workhorse. And I kind of talked about it, how like my sophomore year, I'd kind of just let off the gas a little bit. Thought I was good. And Ronnie talked to me, and over summer we would have meetings. This was after my sophomore year. We'd have meetings with our mental strength coach, but it was like over summer. So it was kind of optional. They couldn't make you come. And one of the days I was like, I'd rather go to this, so I'm not going to go to that meeting. And Ronnie, we were playing beach later that day, and Ronnie pulled me aside and she was like, hey, I know that you wanted to go do that other thing, but I really think you should have been at the meeting. And I think it's really important. And I was kind of like, what? Like, I've never had someone, my teammate, kind of call me out for something like that. But I was able to be like, no, like Ronnie's right. I probably should have gone to that meeting. And I think sometimes in this, we get caught up in wanting to be a good friend and wanting to be nice, and that we just kind of let things slide, when ultimately, like, if you want to be great in anything, we kind of talked about, you have to put in the work. And so I was so grateful because Ronnie was just always holding me accountable, and she's one of my best friends today, but that didn't mean she didn't call me out when I wasn't being smart. And so it is important to have like sympathy and empathy, and if your teammate's going through a hard time, and being there for them. But also I think leading by example and kind of showing them like, hey, this is what we do, instead of just being like, it's fine, whatever. And I'm super grateful that she pulled me aside that one day and talked, because it really had like a come to Jesus moment where I was like, oh, I probably could be doing more. And it's a hard conversation to have, especially if you're friends with your teammates. Like, that's why I appreciate it with Ronnie so much more, because if it's a coach or something, it's pretty easy. You're like, okay, yeah. But when it's one of your best friends coming to you and being like, hey, you shouldn't have done that, it was kind of like, whoa. Her doing that taught me to sometimes be with other people, like, hey, we don't do that on this team. Like, because creating that team culture is so important. And I think that's why BYU is so good, is because their culture is unbelievable. But it takes people to defend the culture like that. And it might make you look uncool. It might make the person mad at you. But I just thought it was really impressive that she was like brave enough to kind of call me out on my crap and say, hey, you can be better than that. And I was like, you're right, I could.
So part of being an elite teammate is also not just all touchy-feely, lovey-dovey, right? But every now and then it's seeing a teammate that is not living up to their full potential and giving them encouragement, candid but kind encouragement that will help them to become their best self. Sometimes the most talented players are not the hardest workers. And part of being an elite teammate might be taking them aside and saying, do you understand how good you could be? Making goals with them, going to workouts with them and helping them. That's also part of being an elite teammate. And so I'm grateful for our guests that have touched on this. So many of them have touched on it. Those three stuck out to us. But our challenge to you is this, just to ask the question, am I an elite teammate? Am I helping my team captains, my leaders, all of my team to be elite teammates to each other? Is that something that we talk about together? You know, Justin went on to talk about the Tampa Bay Rays, and he said, you know, there's even research that has shown that this camaraderie, this team togetherness, this unity leads to success. And it will lead to success in a family. It will lead to success in a job. And it will lead to success in all other relationships and success on the court or on the field. And so it's worth asking ourselves, am I an elite teammate? Am I willing to be there for my teammates? And do I love my teammates enough? You know, sometimes teenagers will say, a true friend is someone who lets me be me. And I know there's some truth to that. But sometimes that's not true if who you are is less than you could be. I think a true friend is someone who takes you aside and says, look, you're great, or you're good, but you could be great, and is willing to have those conversations, as Mckenna talked about there. So our hope is that you'll be an elite teammate, and if you're a coach, that you have just a team full of elite teammates, and that becomes a priority. Not only is it good for success, but it's good for training them for their future life. And so go on, be an elite teammate. We thank you for joining the Sportlight podcast. We hope that you'll share this, that you'll subscribe, that you'll introduce it to people who might want to listen to it on their way to work or on their runs, because we really think this is important stuff to help our youth get the most out of sports. Sports is a tool to help our youth develop. It's not all just about winning games, though that's fun and that's important, but it's a tool. And we hope that one of the things that sports teaches us to do is to be elite teammates. So keep your eyes up and do the work.
This has been the Sportlight podcast from Especially for Athletes, sponsored by Coca-Cola. You can learn more about Especially for Athletes by visiting the website at especiallyforathletes.org. You can also learn more about the book, The Sportlight, by Shad Martin and Dustin Smith at especiallyforathletes.org/book.